The war in the Middle East is on day 4. Everybody wants to know how long this war will last, and
Yes.
nobody can give a conclusive answer on this. But what I can say with certainty is, irrespective of how long the war lasts,
Yeah.
Iran will not lose.
Yes.
This is a certainty.
Good.
And I'll explain why I say that. But
Thank you.
before that, there are two things I want to say on Israel.
Oh, yeah. Same here.
The first is that Israel has already become a military liability for America in this war.
Oh, yeah.
And the second is that Israel's military capabilities are overblown, they are overplayed.
Yes.
The reality of Israel is what we saw in the 12-day war last year in June, when they had to bring in the Americans to end the war that they started with Iran.
Yeah.
So much for Israel. Now let me talk about why I say Iran will not lose. There are many reasons. Let me give them one by one.
Please.
The first is that for Iran, which is pitted against a great power, America, it is a war of survival.
Yeah.
And what this means is that if it can come out of this war with its sovereignty and territorial integrity intact, that would mean it has not lost. Of course, it will get more than that, but this is that baseline.
Yeah.
And please remember also alongside that Iran is a 5,000-year-old civilization. Iran is not a terrorist state, and Iran is not an artificial construct.
You tell him.
Like the vassal kingdoms and sheikdoms which are there in the Middle East.
Oh, you heard
Iran is a nation which stands by itself, it's apart. My second point, Iran learned the lessons from the 12-day war last year, and it made organizational restructuring. It did that. As part of that, they did what is called decentralized command and control. Now, I hear a lot of analysts say that, look, the supreme leader has been eliminated and their top leadership, perhaps one or two rugs, they also have been killed along with the supreme leader.
Yeah.
And therefore, they hardly have any senior person to run the war. This is not understanding what is a war of survival. In a war of survival, the reason they have done the decentralization of command and control is because they do not want a unity of command. A unity of command is required when there is a war of choice. What they want is the unity of effort. Effort is about coordination amongst commanders, whatever their rank, because what is getting them together to work sincerely, for each of them, it is a war of survival.
Yeah.
So when it is a war of survival, what is important is the unity of effort and not unity of command. My next point, they also decided, after learning the lesson, that the center of gravity as far as Iran is concerned should be the people of Iran, and it should not be the religion. It should be nationalism, that everybody come together under the flag of Iran. It is another matter that the Americans and the Israelis, they handed on a platter a big cake to them by killing the supreme leader. By that killing, what has happened is that the Shia and Sunni Muslims in the region, now they have all come together as Muslim Ummah, and they are up in arms. And the example of that we saw in Bahrain. Now, Bahrain is where the American 5th Fleet Naval Headquarters is. And while it was being bombed by the Iranians, the people were rejoicing.
Yeah.
They were rejoicing when the bomb was falling on their own soil. So please think about this. The people, what they are thinking, and what the sheikhs and the kings would be thinking as to what they have to do. I'll come to this subject again in a while.
Thank you.
But the point that I want to make is, because of what has been handed on a platter to the Iranians, now Iranians, in my estimation, are no longer looking at a war of survival. They have perhaps expanded their war objective. And now the minimum that they are looking at is how to get the American and the Western bases, the Western forces which are there, out of the Middle East. This is their objective plus of this war. Next, I will explain the war strategy, how it is working and what they have done. As far as Strait of Hormuz is concerned, we know how important it is. Reports are saying that except for the Chinese and the Russians tankers, no tanker is daring to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. I won't go in the details how the oil prices are already soaring, and there is already a lot of speculation going on in the world market on the oil. So the point to make is that they are in control of Strait of Hormuz and they are also in control of the Red Sea. Why I say they are in control of the Red Sea is, besides the Houthis, which said that they will fight and they will keep the Bab al-Mandeb, they will not allow any shipping through that. Please remember that the Western Indian Ocean region has become a kill zone of the Iranians.
Good point.
Why I say that is because in this entire region, there were naval exercises we saw of Chinese, Russians, and Iranians in the Sea of Oman. The Pakistanis are there and the Chinese are there in Djibouti. And this is the reason that the American nuclear powered aircraft Abraham Lincoln, which was there in the Gulf of Oman, it had to be shifted from there to the Central Indian Ocean region.
Oh.
Now, a word on this Abraham Lincoln. It's the prestige of America. The point is that there were reports that 4 ballistic missiles, they hit the Abraham Lincoln. Pentagon has been dismissive, but I say that once the fog of war, it diminishes or it disappears, the reality will come that certainly 4 ballistic missiles would have made a substantial damage to the aircraft carrier, but this is a story for another time.
As reported by me also.
The next thing I want to talk about is Hezbollah. I said in my last video also that Hezbollah is down, but it is not out. And Hezbollah now has made it very clear that their red line has been crossed. And the red line is killing of the supreme leader. And they are very much now in the game. As I said, they had anything like 30,000 missiles. Our legacy missiles, they are not state of the art, but they are good enough for the Israelis now to take care of the second front, which they are doing in southern Lebanon. And they've also called the reserve forces there. Now, my next point in their war strategy is that right from the beginning, what they had done was the Iranians, they had decided that they will react by making the war into a regional war, which they did.
Yes.
So now, as far as the Gulf Cooperation Council nations are concerned, which have their military bases, the American bases, whether it is Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, or UAE, they all have been hit. The American bases have been hit by the Iranian drones and the Iranian missiles.
Good point. Yeah.
And the Saudis have already come out, their minister, publicly saying that they are worried because the interceptors are not there to take on the missiles on the drones at these air bases. And they even accuse the Americans that, look, these interceptors have been sent to Israel because for them, protection of Israel is more important than our bases and our territory. So
Exactly.
The point to make is that surely the interceptors are in short supply as far as the American side is concerned. And on top of that, Israel is playing a duplicit role. Now, Tucker in his show, he has spoken about that how the Mossad, they are working in Qatar and in Saudi Arabia. Their operatives were arrested because they were planning the bombings there.
Exactly.
Now the point is, whose side is Israel on? I mean, this is something for the Modi government to ponder upon. Yes. What is going on? So as far as these sheikdoms and these kingdoms are concerned, the situation there is that the people are up in arms and they are chanting down with America, down with Israel, and they by themselves are helpless. They do not know what to do. And in any case, the Gulf Cooperation Council nations, their dependency on America is so huge that they simply do not have a collective security system, something that now they will be perhaps thinking about once this war is over.
Absolutely.
The next part of the strategy is expanded strategy, as I said, the objective plus of the Iranians, that they have gone and hit with their drone the Royal Air Force base in Cyprus.
Yeah.
And of course, there is a joint statement that has been given by France, Germany, and Britain that collectively will do something. I don't know what they can do if the Americans can't do much.
Exactly.
So as far as Iran is concerned, their intention should be very clear what they're doing. And why is Iran doing all this? Is a question that needs to be asked. Who are the backers? Well, the backers, there should be no doubt, are China and Russia. And there are enough reports which say that the Chinese and the Russians at the top leadership, they are confabulating with one another, they are talking with one another repeatedly on the situation in the Middle East. And the Chinese have gone and issued a statement which is there, you can see on on the back, which clearly says that China will take care of Iran's territorial integrity, sovereignty, and security.
Good.
This is precisely what the Chinese were saying when Operation Sindoor happened, that they would back Pakistan against India, and they did.
Yes.
Please remember, if I may digress a bit here,
Please do.
to say that this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because what the Chinese are trying to accomplish is, as far as the Western Pacific is concerned, which is where their home base is, they have enough capabilities to ensure that the Americans cannot do much there as
Good.
far as Taiwan is concerned. And beyond that, when we look at Operation Sindoor, what they have accomplished is they have got Pakistan and India in that regional war. They were militarily dominating without showing the hand. Now here in the Middle East, it is a much bigger play, because it is at the global level. They are showing their deterrence, because Iran is pitted against not a regional power, India, but against a great power, America.
Spawn.
And how that is working is that in 2026, there were clear reports which said that the Iranians, they have moved away from the American GPS, and now they are with the Chinese Beidou 3 satellite constellation system. Now, this is a system which is military grade. This is a system which gives millimeter level of accuracy for the targeting of missiles. And there is something exceptional about this system that needs to be understood.
Go on.
Because as a consequence of this exceptional thing that they have, the news had come, if please the viewers may recall, that the Kuwaitis, it was said, with their air defense systems, they had shot down by mistake 3 F-15s of America, and the downing of 3 F-15 was confirmed by the headquarters of Central Command.
It was, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense at all that the Kuwaiti air defense system will shoot down 3 F-16s, so 15s. So obviously there was something more.
That's exactly what I was saying.
And that something more is the capability that Beidou 3 has, which is to use signal as a weapon.
Yeah.
Let me explain this.
Ah.
For example, let's say, say it by an example. Let's say a Iranian drone, which is Shahid 238, which is jet powered, which is long range, and it travels at a speed of 500 to 600 kilometers per hour. Now, if it is integrated, or it is relying totally on Beidou 3. So 3 things it can do. What it can do is that the drone can emit a signal, and that signal can be synchronized by the atomic clock of the Beidou system. It is so good.
Wow.
To appear as a signal of a friendly aircraft. So what the ground air defense system radar will show is a friendly aircraft, which is actually a hostile drone. It will not show that. The second thing what it can do is what GPS cannot do, that even if it is closed, if the radio link is jammed, here what Beidou 3 can do is it has a capability to send a message, a SMS. What that means is that the drone, even if it is jammed, it can still communicate with a controller in Iran thousands of kilometers away. This capability it has. And the third what it has is it can mimic a signal, let's say a friendly signal for the ground stations. It can mimic a hostile signal. If it mimics a hostile signal, which is what I suspect has happened in the case of F-15, so it is not the case of identification of force of friend and foe mistake. It is a case of Beidou 3 being able to, in my assessment, able to mimic a signal which was seen as a friendly signal as a hostile signal by the ground station, when in fact the aircraft was friendly. I'm just going into the details to explain as to how important space is.
Yes.
And what capabilities the PLA has, Chinese have today. Then Chinese surely would have given them their top line drones. We know that Chinese today have the WJ700, which is a jet-powered drone with the endurance of 20 hours. They have the CH9. I won't go in the details.
That'd be a
We
game
all
changer
know
for
what
those.
capabilities they have. And when they say that we will ensure the integrity, they mean business. Chinese should be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Not only that, what is happening on the ground is that the Chinese have very powerful jammers. For example, the YLC-8C, it's a long range radar because it is ground based, so it has a lot of power, it can have a lot of range. If you marry that, or you marry the radars, powerful radars of Russia, with the air defense system provided by Russia, it becomes very potent. And we know that the Russians have given them S-300, they've given them S-400, and there is layered defense. Not only that, the Chinese would have given them hypersonic missiles, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles,
Yes.
multiple warheads, decoys, everything is there.
Yes.
And I have no doubt that today they have an arsenal, the drone and the missiles, different type of missiles the Iranians have. They can sustain this operation for a few months, something that the Americans cannot do, and they have a production capability. All this is real. We need to understand. And the last thing that I want to talk about the war strategy is, please also remember that the North Korean leader has publicly said that he is willing to give his ballistic missiles to Iran if Iran would need them, and we should take the North Korean leader seriously on this issue. So these are the reasons why I said that the minimum that I said was that Iran cannot lose this war. Now let's go to the other side, what they are up to. It all starts with the President Trump saying that his aim is regime change. I mean, something that they had done in Venezuela, that you take Ali Khamenei out, or like they did Maduro, and the government falls and everything now they can control.
Yeah.
And the Secretary of State Rubio has also said, he has gone to the extent of saying that it is the Israelis who dragged us into the war, because Israel in any case was planning to do preemptive strike on Iran. We got to know of it, and because the Iranians had publicly said that if there is a strike on us, we will strike on the US bases in the region.
Yes.
So we decided to preempt also, because there was a threat. I mean, even the senators are not taking this explanation seriously at all.
Exactly.
The point I want to make is that for the Americans, this was a war of choice. And when you do a war of choice, you have to be very clear why you're doing a choice, why you're doing a war, against whom are you doing a war, what are the capabilities the other has, and how will you run your campaign. What looks like is that they are not in control of the campaign at all. This is the reality. And not only that, if President Trump would have even consulted these vassal kingdoms and sheikdoms about regime change, they would have told him that it will be a disaster if you kill the supreme leader, because supreme leader, as I said in my last video also, he is equivalent to the Pope for the Shias.
Exactly.
But all this was not done. And why I say they are totally clueless is because in a day's time, President Trump actually said that the other side, the Iranians, want to talk with us and we can consider that. The reality is, publicly they have rejected the talks. Iranians, they don't want to talk. The statement has come of the new supreme leader that the situation has changed. The red line has been crossed by the Americans and we don't want to talk. After that, President Trump says that, okay, the war will go for 4 or 5 weeks. To do what? And how did you come to this conclusion, 4 or 5 weeks? See, this is what I call hubris.
Yeah.
This is sheer arrogance of power.
Yeah.
What President Trump had done was assembled a huge capability over weeks. And he perhaps wanted to coerce the Iranians into giving concessions at the negotiation table. The talks that were going on in Geneva, and they were actually proceeding well. And the point is this: as the commander-in-chief, you can assemble all these capabilities, but you should also know that yes, US military is the most powerful military in the world. But here is a big but.
Yeah.
It is powerful to fight the 20th century war.
Spot on.
It is not powerful enough to fight the 21st century war, the modern war. And that is where the PLA has a edge over the Americans, and And I have said repeatedly in my video that 21st century is about virtual domains of war. It is about electronic warfare. It is about space capabilities.
Yes.
It is about cyber.
Yes.
And this is precisely what the Chinese have given to the Iranians. The next thing I want to say is that as far as, forget about the strategy, the Americans have no strategy. Even when we come to tactics, tactics is about this war being a war of attrition. Now, the point is, the Americans cannot match the production capability of China, Russia, and Ukraine and Iran combined. And also remember that much of these missiles they have sold to Taiwan, they have sold to Ukraine. So on the one hand, they do not have the capability and a capacity to manufacture. And the evidence of that is on the ground, as I said, that the sheikdoms and these vassal states are already saying that we do not have enough interceptors.
They're running out.
So there is a problem. So the two big vulnerabilities today in this war, which is there for everybody to see. The first vulnerability is Israel. Israel cannot sustain this war without America. And the second vulnerability is American bases, which we see till day 4, they have not been able to provide adequate air defense capabilities, interceptor missiles. Now I want to make 2 more points which will explain what I'm saying. I mean, it's laughable recently that we all notice that the First Lady of America, Mrs. Trump, she is chairing a UN Security Council meeting. Why? Because President Trump obviously is not available. He is baffled. The situation has changed completely. He was not prepared for that. And his loyal staff never prepared him for that. And the last point that I want to make here is on the nuclear weapons. There are many people who will argue that, look, if push comes to shove, as far as the Israelis are concerned, they have nuclear weapons, they may use it. Well, they won't.
Hope not.
The reason for that is if North Korea can offer ballistic missile, North Korea can also provide the nuclear capabilities to Iran.
Yes.
Let's not forget that. I'm not even talking about the 3 great powers. Keep them aside.
Yeah.
I'm only talking in the region.
Pakistan
So all this is there. So my point is very simple, that this war should not have started. I do not see how Iran will lose this war. And I see Iran meeting plenty of its war objectives plus. And there are a lot of lessons for India to learn in this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This guy is an expert. This is why I love Pravin Swani. Honestly, thank God he's not in charge of India. But yeah, a very accurate assessment. Tallies heavily with what I've been saying and a lot of the videos I've been making. And like I said, Pravin Swani, he's got a massive fan base in Pakistan. Works with logic, he's logical. He looks at things from the right angle, the right way. And he's a critical thinker. Thank God he's not in charge of the Indian military. Thank God. Number one, if people like him were in charge of India, you'd never want to fight them. Never. Too much respect. He's a civilized man, a very decent man. Anyway, the points he made were absolutely right. It's a war of attrition. Those bases are America's weakness. Those interceptors will run out soon. Then what happens? If the Chinese are supplying the Iranians and they've given them some weapons, and he made a good point, I've seen Iranian missiles split off into much smaller missiles, as in there were 16, 18, 20, 30 in there. They never had that capability before. The Iranians have got new capabilities. Is it the Chinese? The Chinese? I was saying it was a Chinese tech. That was all the talk of the Chinese defense forums. They were saying it was Chinese jamming equipment that got those planes down. Right. A lot more kits, a lot more toys are going to be tested out, people. Iran is fighting for its survival. All it's got to do is survive. And the Middle East will never be the same again. We may well, if Iran can survive, and it's taken one hell of a beating, but if it can give out enough of a beating, we may well never see American bases in the Middle East again. Because many of the people, and as you said about Mossad, the way the Arab leaders see it now, hang on a second, you're defending Israel. Israel's playing a double game with us, trying to get us to go to war with Iran, so Iran attacks us more, weaken us all, which obviously has been in their plan. That's exactly what I said in my video with, when I was quoting Tucker Carlson. Mossad agents have been arrested. At some point, once the dust is settled, no one will trust America again. No one will ever trust Israel again. Thank you very much for listening. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. And thank you very much, Pravin Swani. Man's an absolute